welcome again to Our Living Pantry, a series of cooking skills and gardening skills sponsored by Whole Cities Foundation, which is part of the Whole Foods Group. Tonight we have a fun night planned. It's a pasta and pesto night. So easy mid-week meal, quick to prepare, and to help us go through the process and learn about all the different variations that are available to us is Riddle from Patricia's Palate, and we also have Chef Brian with us tonight. So we're going to be making 4 different pestos, and I'm going to hand it over to our chefs to show us the how-tos and talk us through it. I'm so glad you could join us.
Hopefully you were able to be with us last week, which was our 3rd episode of burgers at Brian's. That was lots of fun. We had a little bit of rain, but other than that, we got through it. Tonight is our 4th episode of pasta with pesto, and we're going to start with the basic pesto, which is a basil pesto. I'm going to show you our fresh basil leaves, and the basic ingredients are an oil, which we'll talk about what you can do as a substitute. We're using a cheese, a little salt and pepper, some garlic, and some toasted pine nuts. So if you don't have basil, if you don't like basil, we're going to show you some other alternatives. You can use lots of different herbs, lots of different cheeses. You can use just about any oil. We're using extra virgin olive oil tonight, but you could use grapeseed oil or coconut oil or a regular sunflower oil. So many different oils that you can use. We're going to introduce those to you too in our recipe so that you can make choices. And we've toasted up these little pine nuts to give lots of flavor to the nuts. All you do is put them in a cool skillet, bring them up and warm them up and get them toasty, and enhance the flavor of your pesto just that much more. And you can use walnuts, you can use all kinds of nuts. You can use almonds, you can use pecans, even if you had pecans. You can change up your nuts any way you want them. And your cheese is the same way. Tonight we're going to be using a couple of different cheeses, but in this recipe, the traditional pesto for basil pesto is a Parmesan or Romano cheese. So let's get right into it. I'm going to put all the basil into the bowl of the Cuisinart food processor. And if you don't have a food processor, then we're going to talk about something else that you could use. As I pick up my mess here. This happens to be a bullet. If you're a person or a family that uses a bullet to make smoothies, you could use this. You could use a blender to make your pesto in. And if you don't have any of those tools, we'll show you how to use a mortar and pestle, where you can put the herbs and all the ingredients in a bowl and use this just to smash things. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. And if you don't have any of these tools, you can use a good knife and just chop away. With that, I'm going to be quiet and add all of our ingredients. Well, I'll tell you how much. So we're using 4 cups of basil. We are going to put in a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. We're going to put in a 1/3 cup of pine nuts. We're going to put in 2 garlic cloves because I like garlic. You can put 1 or 2 or more. We're going to put a little salt and pepper in, and we're going to get this going. Get things going, moving and grooving here. Now that I've got things started, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to gradually add the olive oil. And now, Brian, would you like to taste it for us?
Of course. color. Mm. Mm.
Does it have enough salt?
Yes. I like the fact that you went with 2 garlic cloves instead of 1. It gives it that nice fresh pop.
Okay. We are going to put this in a bowl. The food processor did its thing. The color is beautiful on the pesto, the basil pesto. Isn't that just yummy? And we've already cooked off cavatappi, a nice pasta, curlicues that'll, all this pesto will get into the nooks and crannies of it. It'll be lots of fun. We'll see if we use all of it or not here. And the nice thing about any pesto is that if you end up having too much, you can freeze it. You can, a pesto will stay in your refrigerator for about a week, 5 days to a week, and it will stay in your freezer for at least 3 months, if not longer. And I think we're gonna have plenty with just this. So I would put the rest of my pesto in an ice cube tray or in little jars, but ice cube tray is great because you can control the portion. You can take about 1 if you're having dinner for yourself, or you can add more in if you're making more servings. So that's beautiful. That is our basic basil pesto with cavatappi.
Now that Pat is done with her traditional basil pesto, we're moving on to a different style. It's made with arugula, which is a peppery lettuce that has a little bit of a bite to it. So in this recipe, we've got our 4 cups of arugula that's been gone through and nice and clean. Instead of pine nuts, we're using almonds. We're also using Parmesan cheese. And this one we're also adding lemon zest to give it that nice summery pop. 2 cloves of garlic again, instead of the 1, that extra garlic clove just gives it that depth of flavor. 1/2 cup of olive oil and a little bit of salt. I think we're gonna omit the pepper because again, this lettuce is quite peppery on its own. So we're gonna use our same food processor that Pat used. And our almonds. 1/2 cup of Parmesan. 1 teaspoon of freshly grated lemon zest. 2 cloves of garlic, and I'll add a pinch of salt. And away we go. Probably want to put the blade in it. Good. Okay, Pat, your turn.
Oh, smells so good. The almonds really make that
Different.
peppery different. Makes it just that much different. That's a great one.
So tonight we're going to pair this pesto with some wheat fusilli pasta. The wheat pasta sometimes takes a little longer to cook than regular white flour pasta. So you just want to keep that in mind. And again, we don't want to add all of this pesto, like Pat said, a little at a time. You can always add more. And sometimes what I'll do is, once my pasta is just about ready to come off the stove, I'll take a little bit of that pasta water off and I'll pour it in to this mixture. What that does, it actually helps kind of make a sauce with it, and that bangs everything together, gives that nice sheen. some more. Bring out the color.
Looks so good.
It's getting inside all those little curly cues in there.
I think that wheat's gonna be really nice with the almonds and the peppery flavor of the green.
Okay. Here we have it. Smells like summer.
Now we're on to a different pesto. We're gonna combine parsley, fresh parsley, and mint to come in and for another variation with feta cheese instead of Parmesan cheese, olive oil, garlic, lemon juice this time. But instead of using a pasta, a whole grain or a grain pasta, we're gonna make zoodles. On to our zoodles. Now zoodles are zucchini that have been spiralized or using a vegetable. I'll show you how to do that. But right now we're using a spiralizer. And if we wanted to use summer squash, we could use that. If we wanted carrots, beets, whatever vegetables can hold up, we're gonna do that. So I'm gonna spiralize zucchini right now. I'm gonna show you how to do that. There they come. And these are so fresh and delightful that I'm gonna hand them off to Brian to saute a little bit. But they're not gonna need much saute because we still want them to be a little bit firm and crisp.
Pat, did you say if you don't have a spiralizer, can you buy these at the store already spiralized?
You can. They're pretty expensive. So that's the nice thing is that if you don't have a spiralizer, I'm gonna show you in a minute what you can do if you don't have a spiralizer. Because they're like $5 for a package in the store, and zucchini and season coming out of your garden or at the store right now are so affordable. So we've spiralized one zucchini, and we ended up with a little core there, which we're gonna get rid of. And Brian will be able to saute those up, but yes, I'm gonna show you what you can do if you don't have a spiralizer. So we can take just a regular vegetable peeler, and we can make strips like pappardelle or a little wide noodle, a vegetable noodle. And we'll do the same thing in the skillet with these. We'll just saute them up with a little olive oil if we don't have a spiralizer. And it'll be lots of fun. So we have variations here.
I like how you left the skin on. It gives it that nice contrast.
Right. And there's nothing, we've cleaned, everything of course has been cleaned, and there's so much fiber in all these vegetables, it's just great. So Brian's gonna take it away and saute our zoodles up.
These are just about done. We don't want to overcook them. We don't want mush. We want them to have a nice crunch. Here we are.
Our zoodles have been prepared, and Brian has cooked them, sauteed them off a little bit, and a little garlic, and well, no garlic, just olive oil. So now we're gonna make the pesto, which is gonna be the arugula and the parsley again. So into the tub it goes. 2 garlic cloves, a little fresh lemon juice for brightness, feta cheese. We're gonna change it up, get rid of our Parmesan, start this up, get it going. These are going pretty well. Now we're gonna slowly add some olive oil. Want to check it? Yes. Give it a little whirl again. Smells good. Brian, you want to taste this one?
Most definitely.
This one is gonna be really nice with things like lamb or fish or poultry as well. Very bright.
The lemon and the feta make that tang is unmistakable. You try.
Yummy.
Moving on to our fourth pesto tonight. We're actually doing an avocado pesto. This is actually a vegan recipe, so if you are vegan, this would be right up your alley. We start with 1 avocado. When you do buy these at the store, you don't want that that's really hard. That means it's not ripe. This has a little bounce to the flesh. If it's real mushy, you don't want that either. You want a nice little spring back on the skin. Along with that, we have a cup of fresh basil, half a cup of olive oil, 1.5 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, 1/4 cup of those toasted pine nuts we have from earlier, and just some simple salt and pepper. So to open this up, we don't peel it. We're just gonna go kind of roll it like this and kind of cut it in half so they meet. And there it is. Sometimes what'll happen is this will get stuck in there and it's a devil to get out. And usually what I'll do is just hit it like that and the blade will pick up the pit and you're good to go. So we can take a spatula, and especially if it's ripe, it really comes out of the skin nice and easy, and a nice clean scoop. If it's not ripe, the flesh sticks to the skin, and again, it's a real bear to get out. 1 cup of basil, 2 cloves of garlic, 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice to give it that brightness, our toasted pine nuts, and we'll get that going. Take a peek in there. Sometimes you have to give this a little scrape. See that one little chunk of avocado that didn't want to join the party here. So we'll scrape the sides.
And that lemon juice will keep it from turning brown.
That's right. Any acid in avocado will keep it longer. If you don't, it'll turn brown in minutes. Okay, we are ready for our olive oil. Give it a check. Last but not least, we'll throw in our salt and pepper. Here we go. Look at that nice bright clean color. Miss Pat, are you ready for a taste?
Coming in. Very good. You can taste the lemon. It's all great.
So one of the latest rages you'll see in restaurants now is avocado toast. So what we've done is we've taken some fresh sourdough bread that Pat has got at an artisanal bakery today, and it's nice and warm. We kept it warm, and we're just gonna smear this on there. Gives it a nice color.
If you have extra avocado spread when you're done, they used to say, put the pits on top of the avocado mix and it would keep it from turning brown. The key is just preventing oxidization. Did I say that right?
Oxidation's fine too.
But if you have extra, like if this, I'd put it in a small bowl and then I'd put saran right close to the dip itself and put it in the refrigerator. If you don't do that, it's gonna turn brown on you.
And even if you did, you might get a little brown around the sides. Just scoop it out and you're ready to roll.
Ready to go.
Yep. What are you making next, Pat?
I'm going to show you how to use a mortar and pestle. So now we're going to use the mortar and pestle method. This is the mortar, this is the pestle. And we're just going to use, I'm going to do a very small batch. Just put a little bit of kale in here. And in order to get things grinding away, you have some things that will allow for some friction. I chopped up a little bit of garlic first, and a little bit of salt, a pinch of salt will help with that grinding. And our nuts, our toasted pine nuts, will help with the grinding method here. This is a really cool method for if you've ever been to a Mexican restaurant and they make guacamole at your table side, and you can tell them exactly what you want to put in it. And then we're going to add a little bit of olive oil next to get this all grained away. Noisy. So small batch, this is kind of what we end up with. And again, if we don't have a mortar pestle, if we don't have a food processor, if we don't have a blender, if we don't have a bullet, we're just gonna chop, 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 chop away. These things are so versatile. We'll talk about when we eat together, but these can be sauces, they can be dips, they can be spreads for sandwiches, you can put them in eggs. All of these things are so yummy, they're so versatile. Just do what your heart tells you to do with all these pestos.
Welcome back. So we have quite a lovely spread before us, and I am excited to tuck in. So I am going to be rude and not wait for anybody, and Pat can start telling you about some of the different things she did while I'm dishing up.
So you saw me make the original pesto, the basil pesto, which is the mother of all pestos, and then we branch off from there. One of the things I like to do with pesto is make a dip. So if Brian can show you, or Brian can show a little bit, I took some of that pesto and added more olive oil to make a dip. And then I put mozzarella balls and tomatoes on a skewer with basil. And we're going to use that as a dip, little caprese mini skewers. The other thing that I like to do with regular basil pesto is to add it to a vinaigrette for a pasta salad. So you've got a nice olive oil and vinegar dressing going with some garlic in it, and I add pesto to it. It makes a really nice fresh summer pasta salad.
You could also add a different protein as well into your pasta. I got a surprise one day. My daughter came home and made a dish with pesto, feta cheese. She ground up some fresh turkey and fresh baby kale and mixed it with some linguine. And again, like I mentioned before, taking some of that pasta water, starchy water, and throwing it in, again, makes this nice sheen and brings the sauce together. It was delicious.
Yum, yum. So, do you mind if I use my hands?
Please do.
There we go.
Please do.
I love salty things. That's so you can give me a bag of potato chips and I'm so happy. So I like to add, and I'm going to make Brian cringe here, an olive or 2 olives to my pesto sometimes, because that saltiness really also kicks it up a notch. So that's another option too. I think they're endless. The stuff is so versatile.
They are endless.
You can put it on a blonde pizza, you can put it on sandwich wraps.
Marinate chicken in it, or put it on salmon and throw it in the oven.
I got inspired by our pestos here, so there's one that is mint based as well with feta cheese. It's really nice, again, with lamb. So I made some little lamb koftas using mint and parsley and garlic and lots of Mediterranean spices, coriander, a little bit of cinnamon, some cumin, and we grilled those up in advance, and that's going to be really nice with our zoodles with pesto, mint, and parsley.
Mediterranean style.
Mediterranean style.
And speaking of, grilling things up and adding different flavors, this is entirely, like, whatever you want to do, whatever flavors you want to throw together, it's such a forgiving thing. So the other trick that I have is to put red pepper flakes in some of my pestos, provides a little kick of heat, which is nice. Like the world's your oyster. It really depends on what it is that you like and what it is you're serving. If you're using a coconut oil, it's delicious with shrimp, so you could use, one of those combinations, a little bit of lemon juice, that would be nice. It's whatever.
It is whatever. And the other thing, if you have issues, dietary concerns, if you can't use nuts, leave them out. If you are lactose intolerant, leave out the cheese. If you want to just make it just what's right for your family, that's what you're going to do.
And it still tastes great.
That's right.
So basil and herbs are really easy to grow in the garden. You can grow them directly from seed. If you have a nice compost, rich soil area, if you don't, you can add a bag of compost. It's probably $5 from Lowe's or whatever, or make your own compost. But you just have to sprinkle the seeds and throw a little bit of soil over it to cover it, keep it well watered until it germinates, and then water every second or third day. And that'll give you basil plants this big.
Yeah.
And a packet of seeds usually has about, I think, 200 to 500 seeds in it. So that's 200 to 500 potential basil plants. You could have basil all summer long. And the same with mint. Mint's a perennial, it'll come back every year. Parsley grows really easily, especially in the spring and the fall. Cilantro too. So you can do all of these things at home, and if you watch, we're going to be making a video with Todd from our garden about container planting and planting tomato, like a cherry tomato plant with the basil plant and a marigold in a 5-gallon pot, and that'll give you everything that you need to dine like a king all summer long. You done good?
Sounds wonderful.
All right, I can't wait to tuck in, so I'm going to stop talking.
We're going to dig in ourselves and get into it here. Please join us next week for pizza night.
Oh my gosh.
What
I'm
could
there.
go wrong?
There we go, what could go wrong? Thank you everybody, I'm so glad you joined us.
Enjoy.
See you next week.